Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Matwichuk, and I'm here to talk to you about how to accept your own death. Rational emotive behavior therapy is a philosophical approach to therapy, and it can tackle some of the greatest challenges of life, which probably is the fact that you and I will die someday. It is only the details that are up for grabs. Death is inevitable, and philosophers have recommended over the years, particularly the Buddhists and the Stoics, that people meditate or reflect upon the inevitability of death long before it happened in order to rob death of some of its emotional power over us. In fact, the Stoics had an expression which was memento mori, which meant to remember death. And the idea was that if we were to contemplate our deaths each day, that we would be able to live more fully in the present. We would have a better idea of our particular priorities. We would not let the small things in life upset us. And so rational emotive behavior therapy, being an amalgamation of ancient and modern philosophy that borrows heavily from the Stoics, is very interested in helping people cultivate healthy attitudes that will enable them to live fully and accept their own death, as well as the death of their friends and loved ones. I've worked with people who were dying and have seen the power that healthy attitudes play in the process of accepting death. Now, rational emotive behavior therapy would argue that it's easy for people to awfulize about dying or hold attitudes of unbearability about dying and insist that whatever diagnosis they receive not be the case. However, we also encourage people to challenge these ideas and see death as bad, very bad, inconvenient, if you will, but not awful insofar as different types of situations could be far worse. It's not unbearable insofar as we all die, the young, the old, the weak, the strong, and we in one way or another bear it. It's just a question of whether we bear the approach of death well, with emotional resilience and flourish and grow right up to the hour of our final breath, or whether we suffer emotionally. Now, in rational emotive behavior therapy, we're going to encourage you to hold on to a flexible attitude, an attitude such as, I don't want to die. I like living. I love my family and friends. I don't want to. Notice I use the word want. I don't want to bid them farewell. But sadly, life comes to an end, and I will choose to accept that. I won't disturb myself and say that I must not die. My friends and loved ones must not die. My life had to be richer than it was. In rational emotive behavior therapy, we target for change rigid attitudes, because rigid attitudes, often expressed with words like must or must not, absolutely should or absolutely should not, absolutely have to. These rigid thought structures will undermine our ability to accept what we can't change and lead to suffering, emotional suffering, behavioral suffering, denial. And so what we're encouraging in rational emotive behavior therapy is that you challenge the idea that you must not die, that your loved ones must not die, that life had to be richer. Where's the evidence? None of us have to get what we want. And we could try. I'm not saying don't try, but when the time runs out, so to speak, in your life, you would be well advised not to demand that things had gone differently. When the hour of death approaches, it is best for you to have three forms of acceptance: unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional life acceptance, and unconditional other acceptance. Rigid thinking does not allow these forms of acceptance to be part of your emotional experience. And that's why we talk about questioning the validity and the functionality of your rigid and extreme attitudes, your musts, your shoulds. When you hold strong preferences to continue to live or strong dislike for having to bid your loved ones farewell, you will have appropriate and healthy feelings of sadness and sorrow. Disappointment. When you're told that you have a very pernicious diagnosis, a fatal diagnosis, you'll be deeply concerned because your attitude is, I want to live. I want to try to somehow find a way to prolong my life and maintain a high quality of life. I don't want to depart from this earth. So when we have a threat to our wishes and wants, such as these, we're going to feel concerned because we know that a fatal diagnosis is really information that's bringing us awareness that our days are highly numbered. So in rational emotive behavior therapy, we advocate flexible attitudes so that you can enjoy life right up to the moment of your final breath. Now, of course, this can get difficult if there's pain and discomfort that you're experiencing. Hopefully, with good palliative medical care, that pain and discomfort will be minimized. However, it's important for you not to feel anxious now about the possibility of future pain, simply because death itself will bring an end to that pain. So for as long as the pain does exist or the discomfort does exist, the healthy attitude would be, I can bear it because I know that it's time limited. It's not going to go on forever. I like the idea that with rational emotive behavior therapy, we can contemplate that, in fact, death will kill us, but with REBT, death doesn't have to defeat us. My goal is to enjoy life up to the final moments of my life. And I truly believe this can be done. I hope to be smiling and laughing right up to the final moments of my life. I think it can be done if I continue to maintain a strong sense of unconditional self-acceptance and a strong sense of unconditional life acceptance. Now, self-acceptance is where you acknowledge that you may have done some things that were, in fact, misdeeds or transgressions against others, that you may have wasted time or not lived up to your potential, but that you fully embrace your fallibility. You don't use fallibility as an excuse for misbehavior, but you exercise your right to choose unconditional, unqualified self-acceptance when your life is coming to an end. Now, you could unconditionally accept yourself long before that time, and hopefully you will. But the point being is that unconditional self-acceptance will come in particularly helpful as you approach your final days and hours of life. The same thing with unconditional life acceptance. When the hour of death approaches, whether it approaches suddenly or you're adequately forewarned through perhaps receiving a fatal diagnosis, you can achieve unconditional life acceptance by seeing that all the conditions are in place for your life to come to an end. The fact of the matter is that just as birth is a natural process and a child is born when all the conditions are right for that child to be born, a life ends when all the conditions are right for that life to end. So in rational emotive behavior therapy, we accept, we may not understand why things happen at a particular point in time, but we accept that when they do happen, when the milk spills, so to speak, all the conditions were right for the milk to spill. And so therefore, you're going to unconditionally accept life and the end of your life if you choose not to insist that things be different and that you be giving more years than you are have been granted. Now, this isn't easy, but it can be done. Again, attack the idea. Where's the evidence that you have to have more days, more months, more years? There's zero evidence. When the hour of death approaches, the evidence is clear. This is your time to pass. Now, I also think it's important to have unconditional other acceptance as you approach death. Sadly, humans bicker, fight, hold grudges, feel acrimonious towards one another, and these feelings of anger and hurt very often lead to people being estranged from one another. And in rational emotive behavior therapy, we're going to encourage you to take responsibility for your reaction to any transgressions that others may have done to you. And I would say that it might not be a bad idea to accept others unconditionally as fallible humans, just like you are going to accept yourself as accept yourself unconditionally because you're a fallible human. So you apply the same logic to other people. They too are fallible, and they therefore have done what they've done because they're fallible. Now, you don't have to have liked it, but it might be good for you to allow yourself to make amends with people, or at least to relinquish feelings of anger and hurt, so that those people who you may come in contact during the final days, months, or hours of life, you accept whatever apology they may give you, or you extend your own apology through having self-acceptance for yourself. You extend an apology, and by accepting other people, you accept their apologies. Rational emotive behavior therapy is a very humanistic therapy. It's a very humanistic philosophy. It argues that none of us are more than human. We all have our flaws. We all make mistakes. We sometimes hurt other people. And it's appropriate to feel sad and disappointed with our own behavior and the behavior of other people. But at the end of the day, it's best to live well with others and ourselves by accepting that we're fallible. And it's my hope that you will study REBT and use it both on the small adversities of life, but also perhaps the greatest adversity of life, which is losing your own life and the life of your loved ones. It is sad that we don't stick around forever, but in some sense that gives us the concern that motivates us to take advantage of the time we do have. The concern that we won't live forever and the time will run out helps us to prioritize and use our time well. It helps us to have a set of goals and to pursue those goals. And so I hope that you take the advice of the Stoics and remember the phrase memento mori. Remember that death is inevitable, but that you do not panic yourself, that you take responsibility for having a healthy emotional reaction to the fact that time is a precious resource that's limited to all people, and that it is best for us not to feel panicked that we have limited time on this earth, but to use it constructively. And constructive use of time involves holding flexible attitudes, non-extreme attitudes about the frustrations, adversities, and transgressions that we face, our own limitations, that we work on changing what we can change and accepting what we can't, and that we enjoy life right up to our final breath. So I'd like to thank you for listening today, and I would hope that you would join me on Saturday when I do my weekly REBT demonstration, which is free to attend, and it's on Zoom. It's at 9 a.m. Eastern here in New York City. You can write to me at rebtdoctor@gmail.com to get the free link. Memento mori.